Have you ever felt like your world has completely collapsed? Like it's totally upside down and you don't even know how to start putting it back in order. You might feel like you're drowning. You might be dealing with agoraphobia or anxiety or depression, panic attacks. And you're in this place where it's like, how am I even going to try to practice piano when I can barely get out of bed, brush my teeth? If that's where you are, you're not alone. And life isn't going to be this dark forever. I'm not a therapist or a psychologist, but I've crawled out of those trenches myself, and I've walked alongside people, been near them as they were crawling out of those trenches themselves. Maybe with this video, I can help you a little too. In the first video of this series, I talked about overcoming the overwhelming desire for approval from other people, especially when these people are close to you, but never seem to approve of what you do, or they actively disapprove and discourage you. You can find the link to that video in the description and the iCards. So let's get back to the topic, practicing when your world is in shambles. Now, how did it happen? Usually this happens because we exit relationships, and they can be super toxic relationships, and now you're free, but you have to work on healing and rebuilding yourself. You could be leaving a cult-like situation, or you could have had some really severe psychological or emotional abuse happen. Maybe it was a short period of time, but now you're recovering. Or maybe you came out of a relatively healthy relationship, but you're adjusting to being on your own after a long-standing connection with somebody. So, if any of these circumstances are where you are, it may seem like something as simple as sitting down and putting your hands on the keys is beyond impossible. It feels like climbing a mountain or pulling a mountain up behind you while you're climbing a mountain. Or it may seem trivial, like, wow, that's going to help me, practicing for a couple of minutes, that's going to help. But for your healing, it's actually magical. Piano could be exactly what you need. When your life falls apart, you need specific, small goals that are grounding. And piano by nature, you can touch the keys, you can hear the sound, and you can read the notes. It's very grounding because it's sensory, and you use your body to create the music. So it gets you back in touch with your body. When your life falls apart, you need clear, small goals to focus on, because you get a sense of accomplishment every time you complete a little task, and that sense of accomplishment will help rebuild yourself. Piano can give you that, and this is why many people turn to piano as a tool for healing, or as a hobby to fill up the time that is now wide open, because whatever their previous circumstance was has changed. Their life is in shambles, they have too much time on their hands, and they don't know how to structure it. So piano is something that you can take, and you can start structuring your time. Now here is the challenging part. How are you supposed to start piano when you can barely get through your daily tasks? You can hardly remember to feed yourself, or to drink your water, or you're constantly calling a friend because you need some help. So if you can barely get through a normal day, like, how do I expect you to practice piano? How can I ask that of you? And the answer is a little bit at a time. Now let me explain. It's important to manage your expectations of yourself. If your life is in collapse and you can barely get through day to day, you can't expect to sit down at the piano and practice for a couple of hours. And nobody is expecting that of you. Hopefully, I'm not expecting it of you. And I hope you're not doing that to yourself either. There's no amount that you should practice in this season of your life. It's important that you take care of yourself before assigning any should practice. So when I went through major collapses in my life, which happened, I had a lot of little ones, but I had a couple huge ones. And when I went through these two major collapses, I didn't practice for a couple of weeks because I just didn't have the space to wrap my head around it. And if this event that shook your life has happened recently, like in the last couple weeks, maybe you want to take a couple weeks more before you continue or take up piano so that you can level out. But you need to go with how you feel. If you feel like you need it right now, start it right now. Start it today. So me, as I resumed practice, I only did it once a week for as long as I could. And as I recovered, I was gradually able to increase the amount of time that I practiced. I needed something that was for myself, something that I wanted to do. And so my practice was different than it had ever been because I used to practice for exams and tests and recitals and all this, but I only practiced music that I wanted to learn. I have two more examples. So I had one student who could only practice 3 minutes without triggering past abuse memories. And I told her, okay, if that's all you can do, even if all you can do is show up and put your hands on the piano and then you have to get up, do that. And eventually you'll have greater and greater capacity. And so when she had her major life collapse and she was like, okay, now it's ready to get back on. Now I'm ready to get back onto piano. She could only do 3 minutes at first. And so she did that. Eventually she was able to work it up to 5 minutes and 7 minutes and so on. And by now she's worked through a lot of her trauma, and so she's able to sit at the piano and practice regularly and for longer. I've had a few male students whose worlds collapsed, and they used piano as a life raft. It gave them something constructive and useful to do, and it gave them clear goals to attain. And they began with sporadic practice because you know how it is when you're chewing through terrible, if you're watching this video, you know what it's like to be grinding through every day just to get to the next day. They started with sparse and sporadic practice, and now they're much more regular because they worked through the thoughts that they needed to untangle for themselves. So start small. Don't force yourself to practice for a specified amount of time. Don't worry about what you should be doing. Do what you can do. Give what you have to yourself in your practice. In this season of life, you have a lot of healing to do. You have a lot of figuring out, who am I? And that's a lot to handle. So stay with that. Stay with figuring out who you are. And don't impose these huge, I'm gonna tackle an exam in a year. Unless that's what you need, don't do that. Give yourself time to just be. Just give it what you have. Now, why do I say you have to figure yourself out? Because if you've come out of an ongoing abusive relationship, that is what you have to do. You don't know yourself. And if you've come out of a healthy relationship, but now you're alone and you don't know what to do with your time, you don't know yourself. Something changed in your life so that your life is completely different. And that makes you completely different. And so you have to sit with this new person that you are. You're not the same as you were. You're completely different. And you have to get to know that person like meeting a new friend. Because these things that you think about yourself are tied to old life. Or what you feel about yourself is tied to the old life. And something has changed and shaken the foundation of who you are, or revealed that there wasn't a who you are to begin with. So you have to get back in touch with that person. You need to discover who you are today. I can almost guarantee you that you're not who you think you should be. But should doesn't matter today. Should is something vague and in the future, and the future is changing, and you're changing. So practice as much as you can. Order your priorities so that things that are more important than piano come first, and piano comes first before things that are less important. And take your own capacity to focus into account. And even if all you can do is sit down and put your hands on the piano, maybe open the book, look at them, decide what you'll do tomorrow, and then you have to go because you can't do it anymore. Show up and just do that. Because every time that you show up for yourself, you become a little more capable, a little bigger of a person who's able to hold a little bit more, do a little bit more, accomplish a tiny bit more. Don't be ashamed of that either. Nobody has much to give when their life is upside down. Viktor Frankl, Holocaust survivor, said that an abnormal reaction to an abnormal situation is a normal reaction. So you're like standing there like, oh, I'm such a mess. Yes, when your life is in shambles, this person who you are, that you don't recognize, that you can't hardly get a hold of, this is a normal reaction to what you've been through. The most wonderful secret about investing in yourself and investing in piano is that it's a compounding investment. So you get multiplied returns off whatever you put in. And that means you don't have to put in much for your ability and capacity to expand. You just keep showing up and putting in a little bit, and it will expand and multiply. And before you know it, one of these days, you'll look up and you'll think, I had no idea I was capable of this much. Wow, I never thought I'd be able to do something like this. The takeaway from this video is that no matter how challenging your life is right now, you can do just a little bit to put into yourself and put into piano and to work towards a semblance of light. It might seem like you're stuck in a never-ending dark tunnel and you can't even see the light at the end. But you just take a little step forward as often as you can, and you'll get out on the other side. And I promise you, there's another side. You have to hold on. This journey you're on is not really about becoming good at music, although it can be. It's not just about the music. It's about rediscovering who you are and what you're capable of amidst the darkness and the chaos. If this video resonated with you, I want to encourage you to watch it again. When I find things that really help me, I listen to them over and over again. I just want to keep them. If you want to leave in the comments how your journey has been, I welcome that. If you know anyone else who needs the message, share it. If you'd like more, subscribe. If you liked the video, please like it. Thank you for watching, and until next time, keep showing up for yourself, even in the smallest of ways. There is a light at the end of your tunnel.